300 Navy SEALs, all hardened, elite warriors, stood frozen in place as one of their own screamed in pain. His arm was twisted at an angle no bone should ever bend. And the woman standing over him? She didn't flinch. She didn't panic. She simply stepped back and waited for the next threat. Her name was Captain Elena Cross, the only female invited into SEAL Tier 1 evaluation in over a decade. But how did it come to this? Why did an elite soldier think he could strike her? And what did she do that forced the entire command to drop their jaws? This is her story. Where real heroes are made, legends are born, and respect is earned in the harshest crucibles on Earth. Beginning of the story. 10-minute flow. It began on day 1 of Hell Week selection. The naval amphibious base at Coronado buzzed with anticipation. Recruits lined up, muscular, intimidating, full of confidence. These weren't rookies. They were the best of the best, chosen to fight for a Tier 1 slot. And there, in the middle of them, stood her, Captain Elena Cross, average height, lean, calm. Her uniform crisp, her stare unshaken. Some SEALs whispered under their breath, "Why is she even here? Probably diversity quota. She won't last 3 hours." But Elena didn't react. She had served already. Multiple deployments. She had earned ribbons they hadn't even seen. Yet she never bragged. She never spoke unless necessary. To her, silence was discipline. Strength didn't need volume. Orientation room. Tension builds. Inside a massive briefing hall, instructors barked orders and laid out the rules of the assessment. Commander Briggs, a SEAL with a stare like cold steel, addressed them. "There is no gender here. There is no favoritism here. Only survival." He shifted his eyes directly onto Elena. Some smirked. A few rolled their eyes, especially Lieutenant Chase Ward. Ward was tall, broad-shouldered, and feared by most. He believed in dominance. The louder you bark, the more power you hold. And the idea that a woman could match him? Unthinkable. He leaned towards his buddies and whispered too loudly, "If she slows us down, I'll personally make sure she regrets signing up." Elena heard him. She didn't respond. Not yet. Drill grounds. The test. Hours later, the first discipline evaluation commenced. Push-ups, log lifts, sand crawls, ice water submersion, timed sprints with gear. Elena didn't just compete. She excelled. Every time Ward looked over, she was ahead. Every time he finished, she was already done. Every challenge she made seem natural. Jealousy began to boil. Ward clenched his jaw. He couldn't accept losing to her. Especially not in front of 300 other SEALs. So when instructors called for combat testing, Ward stepped forward. "Commander, I request to spar with Captain Cross." The crowd perked up. Some grinned, expecting a show. Briggs frowned. He knew Ward's ego. He knew this wasn't a fair challenge. Ward was heavier, bigger, aggressive. And Elena? She simply nodded. "I accept." The fight circle. Ego versus experience. The trainees formed a ring. Chants, smirks, doubt. Ward stepped in confidently, cracking his knuckles. Elena simply loosened her shoulders. Briggs barked, "This is a controlled evaluation. No excessive force. Respect your opponent." Ward muttered under his breath, "There's nothing to respect." Before Briggs could even drop his hand to signal the start, Ward attacked. He swung, a full, brutal strike aimed at her temple. A hit designed to knock her unconscious, a coward move. But Elena, She saw it coming like it was slow motion. She sidestepped, fluid as water, grabbed his wrist, pinned the elbow, shifted her weight. A technique as clean as textbook, drilled through years of real battle. And then, crack. Ward collapsed, screaming. His arm snapped backward, bone visibly distorted. Gasps echoed through the ranks. No one laughed now. Elena stepped away, calm, controlled. She didn't taunt him, didn't boast, didn't even seem proud. She just waited for the instructor's order. Briggs rushed in, eyes wide, not in anger, but in awe. He didn't see weakness. He saw someone forged for this life, someone who didn't break. She broke limits. Whispers spread through the base. She took down Ward. That technique, who trained her? She's not normal. Commander Briggs pulled us.
The room was silent for what felt like an eternity after Ward fell. 300 Navy SEALs, men trained to suppress emotion, to move with precision, stared in shock. Not at the injury itself, but at the woman who had caused it. Elena stood perfectly still, her breathing steady, her eyes scanning the crowd. She didn't smile, she didn't gloat, she simply existed, a force calm, precise, lethal. Commander Briggs approached her cautiously, his face a mixture of awe and concern. "Captain Cross, are you all right?" he asked. Elena nodded. "I'm fine, sir." He overestimated his reach. The SEALs began to murmur. Some whispered to their neighbors, "Did you see that move? She broke his arm without even hitting hard. Who is she?" Ward sat on the floor, clutching his arm, gritting his teeth. Pain mixed with rage and humiliation. This wasn't part of his plan. He had intended to assert dominance in front of the team, to show everyone that a woman had no place in Tier 1 evaluation. Now all of that backfired spectacularly. His friends and fellow trainees avoided eye contact, their excitement replaced by discomfort. Ward growled under his breath, "This isn't over. She got lucky." But anyone who watched closely knew. It wasn't luck. Commander Briggs raised his hands. "Enough. Everyone take a breath. This was a test, a demonstration, not a fight to the death. Ward, medical staff will assist you. And Captain Cross..." He paused, eyes scanning the room. "You've just set a new standard. Well done." Elena simply nodded. Discipline and composure were her weapons. Bragging was unnecessary. Actions spoke louder than words. The SEALs around her began to whisper again. Curiosity replaced doubt. Respect started to form. Even after Ward was escorted to the medics, tension remained. Other trainees were careful now. They remembered the sound, the snap of bone, and the authority Elena exuded. Elena moved to the next training exercise, rope climbs and obstacle courses, yet the room felt different. Men who had mocked her hours earlier now gave her space. Their eyes measured, calculated. Some challenged her quietly, testing her, not to humiliate her but to gauge her skill. Each one failed. By midday, a silent hierarchy had emerged. She wasn't just another trainee. She was the standard. Behind the scenes, instructors discussed what had happened. "She's not just a fighter," one murmured. "Her technique, it's clean, controlled, professional. Looks like a combat veteran." "No records," another said. "Who trained someone to move like that without leaving a trace?" Commander Briggs didn't answer. He simply watched Elena, a thought forming in his mind. She belongs at the top. Maybe even higher than we even expected. The final part of the day, live combat drills. Trainees were paired, facing simulated threats in a controlled environment. Elena's partner, a veteran trainee known for aggressive tactics. He lunged toward her during the first engagement. The result was almost identical to Ward. Elena dodged, parried, and neutralized the attack in seconds, not with strength alone, with skill, precision, and foresight. The room erupted with whispers. Some men were in awe, others in disbelief. For the first time, the concept of underestimating a woman had been violently erased. At the end of the day, the trainees were exhausted, bruised, sore, humiliated. Ward sat alone in the corner, silently plotting revenge, not because he hated Elena, but because he was incapable of accepting her superiority. Elena, meanwhile, was calm. She cleaned her gear meticulously, maintaining composure. The instructors knew this. Her mind was always several steps ahead. Commander Briggs approached. "You've made an impression, Captain. Not all of it positive for your colleagues," he said with a half-smile. Elena looked up, eyes sharp. "I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to survive and prove capability." Briggs nodded, impressed. "Then you've already succeeded." That night, whispers filled the barracks. Trainees replayed every moment. How did she move like that? Did you see how she snapped his arm? Do you think she's trained by Tier 1 veterans? Some admired her, some feared her. All knew tomorrow would be even harder, because in Tier 1 evaluation, strength alone isn't enough. It's strategy, composure, and dominance under pressure that counts. And Elena? She had all three. The camera metaphorically pans over her silhouette as she stands alone, looking out at the moonlit training grounds, a silent storm of determination.
The sun rose over Coronado Naval Base, casting long shadows across the training grounds. Day 2 of Tier 1 evaluation promised to be even more grueling than the first. The air was thick with tension, sweat, and anticipation. Every trainee remembered what had happened yesterday. Every trainee knew Elena Cross was not like the others. Morning roll call. The whispers begin. 300 SEALs lined up in formation, their eyes scanning each other, lingering on Elena. She stood silent, posture perfect, eyes forward. No words, no arrogance, just readiness. Ward, still nursing his broken arm in a cast, glared at her across the line. He whispered to his friend, "Today, I'll finish what I started. She won't get away again." Elena's gaze flicked toward him, not in fear, but in quiet acknowledgement. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone unsettled him. Commander Briggs stepped forward. "Today's exercises will test more than brute strength. It's about coordination, adaptability, and precision under pressure. Stay alert. Failure will be costly." Every trainee stiffened, every mind focused, every heartbeat quickened. The first challenge, a complex obstacle course designed to test speed, agility, and problem-solving under stress. Elena moved with almost supernatural efficiency. She scaled walls, balanced on beams, and swung across gaps effortlessly. Every motion fluid, precise, calculated. Ward tried to keep up, but the weight of yesterday's humiliation slowed him. He snapped at a fellow trainee mid-course. "Get out of my way. I can't let her win." Elena passed him silently, unbothered. Her focus never wavered. She didn't compete for ego. She competed for mastery. Next came the hand-to-hand combat drill. Trainees paired off for simulated neutralization of a hostile threat. Ward deliberately partnered with Elena. His grin was cold. "I'm finishing this today." The fight began. Ward lunged aggressively, aiming for speed and power, but Elena didn't react blindly. She read his motion, anticipated the strike, and countered with a precision wrist lock and knee strike. A loud crack echoed. Ward yelped again. Not fully broken this time, but enough to send him sprawling. The crowd gasped. Some trainees looked away in disbelief. Others whispered in awe. "She's unstoppable." Commander Briggs watched intently. "She's not just strong. She's tactical, adaptive. This is what Tier 1 training is about," he said to his senior staff. One instructor muttered, "We haven't seen anyone move like that in years, male or female." Elena's eyes scanned the room, always calculating. Every trainee's weakness registered, every opportunity analyzed. She wasn't fighting to show dominance. She was teaching by action, showing what mastery looked like.
The next exercise required trainees to navigate a simulated urban combat scenario as a squad. Leaders were assigned, and teams were briefed, extract the VIP safely while neutralizing threats. Elena's team struggled at first under Ward's aggressive commands. He barked orders, tripping over his own frustration. Elena stepped forward. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "We move as one. Follow my lead." The team hesitated, but something about her presence demanded compliance. Within minutes, they executed flawless maneuvers, clearing rooms and securing objectives faster than any other team. Whispers spread. "She's leading men, better than Ward ever could." After the exercises, Ward confronted her alone. "You're lucky. You'll never beat me in real combat." Elena looked him straight in the eyes, calm and cold. "You've already lost. It's not about luck. It's about skill, strategy, and control. Something you clearly lack." Ward swung at her again, reckless, desperate. With the same precision as yesterday, Elena twisted his arm, sending him crashing into a wall. Not only was his ego shattered, but the pain reminded him that she was untouchable under pressure. 300 SEALs watching froze, then erupted in silent respect. Commander Briggs muttered under his breath, "This is Tier 1 history in the making." By evening, the whispers had grown into acknowledgement. Trainees approached Elena cautiously, some with apologies, some with questions. Ward sat alone, humiliated, but learning a hard lesson. Strength alone does not command respect. Elena's mastery, her calm, her control, her intelligence earned something far greater: admiration and authority. Elena, however, didn't seek praise. She packed her gear meticulously, every motion deliberate, her face betraying nothing. She knew Tier 1 evaluation was far from over. Commander Briggs approached her quietly. "You've made your mark today. But the week isn't finished. Challenges ahead will test more than technique. They'll test endurance, resilience, and judgment. Are you ready?" Elena's gaze met his. "I've already survived worse. I'm ready for whatever comes next." Night fell over Coronado. The training grounds were quiet, but inside the minds of the trainees, and especially Ward, tension brewed. Tomorrow would bring the final evaluations, mock missions under stress, teamwork in chaotic conditions, and tactical problem-solving that would decide who truly belongs in, and one fact remained clear. Elena Cross had earned the attention of every SEAL present, and there was no turning back. Minutes stretched like hours. Every creak of metal vibrated with dread. The Admiral, listening through an open comm channel, finally asked, "How many enemy subs?" Aurora spoke without emotion. "3 confirmed. Possibly 5. The Admiral's breath hitched. 5 Predator subs versus 1 U.S. carrier, and only the Leviathan to defend it. He muttered, "That's a slaughter." Aurora corrected him. "Only if we hesitate." Her tone was iron. The first strike. A loud ping echoed through sonar. One of the enemy subs had broken silence. "They've locked on," shouted a crewman. Aurora slammed her hand down. "Brace!" A torpedo streaked through the dark toward the carrier, unstoppable. The Admiral yelled over comms, "Do something!" Aurora's voice cut through. "Launch countermeasures, now!" The Leviathan fired a decoy array, metal pods ejecting rapidly. Explosions rippled underwater. Silence, then cheers. "Confirmed, torpedo deflected." But Aurora didn't celebrate. That was a warning shot. "They're testing us." She turned toward the Admiral's live feed on screen. "If they fire for real next time, you won't have a ship left." The Admiral's hands trembled against the rail. For the first time, he asked, "What do you need from us?" Aurora stared at him, not cruelly, just truthfully. "Stay out of the way." The Admiral swallowed the last of his pride and nodded. The sailors on the carrier watched the exchange with awe. The woman he had disrespected was now the one holding every life afloat. The sonar chief whispered, "They're circling us, ma'am, like wolves." Aurora approached the tactical table, a swirling hologram of the ocean around them. She marked enemy paths with movements precise as a surgeon. She said,
They're planning a multi-vector kill box. The XO asked quietly, "What's our move?" Aurora smiled, a smile filled with deadly promise. "We don't wait to die. We strike first." Her strategy was unlike anything the Navy taught. Her crew knew that and trusted her anyway. She ordered, "We go silent. We dive deep." "To the trench?" her XO asked, shocked. Aurora nodded. "That's where they think we won't follow." The Leviathan descending into the black void where sunlight and hope disappeared. Hull plates moaned under pressure. Still, Aurora pressed deeper. She had once survived the impossible down here when the world assumed she perished. This time she wasn't running. She was hunting. The secret only she knew. As the submarine leveled out, the sonar image changed. Aurora zoomed in, revealing a hidden abyss beneath the enemy formation. The crew gasped. "It's not just a mission," she finally revealed. "The Abyss Reavers aren't attacking the carrier. They're after me." The room fell silent, because if Aurora Hale was the target, then the enemy wasn't a threat to the Navy. It was a threat to the world, one only she understood. A debt written in blood. Her voice dropped. "They're the ones who killed my old team, and they think they finished the job." The sonar chief interrupted. "Ma'am, enemy vessels adjusting course. They know we're here." Aurora's eyes hardened. "Good." She stepped forward, every word a silent declaration of vengeance. "Because now, we finish what was started." The Leviathan crew prepared, hearts pounding in sync with the ocean pulse. They weren't just in a battle. They were in a war that had been buried and was now resurfacing like a nightmare. In the dim red glow of the control room, Aurora gave the order. "Arm all torpedoes." Metal hissed, lights flickered, the abyss waited. Aurora stared forward, the predator staring into the dark. "On my mark," she whispered.
The sun rose on the third day of Tier 1 evaluation, casting harsh light over the training grounds. Sweat, mud, and anticipation filled the air. The previous days had left no doubt. Elena Cross was a force to be reckoned with. Every SEAL knew it. Every instructor acknowledged it. Even Ward, bruised and humiliated, nursed his wounded pride. Final evaluation set up. Commander Briggs called all trainees into the central hall. "This is your final test. A simulated mission. Infiltration, neutralization, and extraction under live stress conditions. Mistakes will be costly. Observe the rules, execute flawlessly, and show us who deserves Tier 1. The scenario was complex, multiple objectives, hidden adversaries, and time-sensitive decisions. Teams were divided, leaders chosen. Elena's team looked tense, but she remained calm, scanning the plan and calculating every variable. She did not rush. She commanded presence. Ward smirked, assuming dominance over his team, glaring at her. Elena didn't react. She simply prepared. The teams deployed into the mock urban battlefield. Gunfire, smoke, and shouts filled the air. Elena moved like a shadow. Her orders were precise. Her team executed flawlessly. She anticipated ambushes, redirected threats, and neutralized simulated enemies with surgical precision. Ward's team, by contrast, descended into chaos. Aggression replaced strategy. Orders were ignored. Mistakes compounded. Every SEAL watching could see the contrast: discipline, intelligence, and calm under fire, versus arrogance, chaos, and impulsiveness. The final obstacle: a direct confrontation between leaders. Ward, desperate to reclaim his pride, charged at Elena again. This time, however, it wasn't about speed or strength. It was about anticipation and mental control. Elena stepped aside, redirected his momentum, and used his own aggression to unbalance him. With a swift wrist lock and a controlled sweep, he went down, unable to recover. 300 SEALs froze. Even instructors stopped to watch. Elena stood tall, offering her hand to Ward, not in mockery, but in acknowledgement of effort. He hesitated, humiliated but humbled, and took it. Back at the command center, instructors debriefed. Commander Briggs' face was stern, but there was a hint of pride. Commander Elena Cross has demonstrated skill, discipline, and composure unmatched in this evaluation. She not only survived Tier 1 challenges, she redefined them. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every trainee. Remember this: respect is earned, not demanded. Strength is not just physical. It is mental, tactical, and controlled. Never forget what you saw here. Whispers ran through the room. Elena had earned not only respect, but fear and admiration. By evening, the training grounds were quiet. Trainees cleaned their gear, exhausted. Ward sat silently, reflecting. He had tried to assert dominance through aggression, but learned the hard way: skill and composure outweigh brute force every time. Elena packed her equipment, her movements calm and deliberate. She didn't boast. She didn't need to. Her actions had spoken for her. Commander Briggs approached her. "You've earned your place here, but more than that, you've earned respect from instructors and trainees alike. Congratulations, Captain Cross." Elena nodded quietly. "Thank you, sir. I just did what was necessary." Across the base, trainees reflected. Respect is earned, not demanded. Strength without control is meaningless. Discipline and composure under pressure define true warriors. Elena's example had set a new standard. The story of the woman who broke a man's arm in front of 300 Navy SEALs spread quickly, a legend in the making. Ward, though humiliated, approached her later. "I underestimated you. You're the real deal." Elena's expression softened for a moment. "Learn from it. That's what matters." 7. Epic conclusion. The legend of Elena Cross. As the sun set over Coronado, Elena stood alone at the training ground's edge. The wind tousled her hair, mud streaked her uniform. Yet she radiated calm, confidence, and silent authority. She didn't need recognition. She didn't crave it. But she earned it. Through action, not words. Her name would echo and seal history. Elena Cross, the woman who broke a man's arm in front of 300 Navy SEALs and earned the respect of an entire generation of warriors.